Welcome to Taste of the Club, the podcast for business owners from the Global Business Owners Network of Business Friendship. This is where you get the insights from founders and investors on their career and personal development. Hi, all. Welcome to the Global Business Owners Podcast, Taste of the Club, where we each time bring in an interesting GBO member as a guest. We who are hosting the podcast are John Appold, an influence coach and trainer in presentation skills. John also has his own podcast called the Locky Podcast that focuses on public speaking. But John is also our president in our GBO Valencia chapter. John, how are you today?
I'm really good and really happy to be here with you again today.
Thank you very much for joining with us, John. My name is Wikström, and I'm the global president of GBO, and I also hold the position as president in our Stockholm chapter. My background is in the cosmetic business, where I've held several positions from sales representative to CEO over the past 30 years. And today I'm investing and consulting in startups in cosmetics and experience business on a board level. Usually with us is also Maitén Panella from Valencia, who is a psychologist specializing in business psychology for entrepreneurs. But today she's a little bit sick. I hope it's not corona. We'll see. She was coughing this morning, so she can't be with us because it would really disturb this podcast. But you have to cope with only me and John today. The format of this podcast is the same as a regular GBO meeting, where we meet regularly based on the founding idea of GBO, business friendship. The idea with GBO and business friendship is to start with the friendship part, not the business part, thus to find people you want to work with rather than the ones you have to. Today's very special guest is Rob Gaskell, one of the GBO London members and also the vice president in the London chapter. Rob, warm welcome to the GBO podcast, A Taste of the Club. And let's start basic. Rob, who are you?
Well, first of all, thank you, Richard, and thank you to everyone listening. Yes, I'm Rob Gaskell. I have been a GBO member since August of 2019, and I'm most experienced is finance and technology in operations in various different businesses, and now more recently in startups. I started my life in the hedge fund industry, then moved into asset management and other areas of wealth management, as well as family office work and services for around 5 years actually in Switzerland, and I was based there for just more than 6 years. And then in the last 3 years, I've been working in the blockchain, artificial intelligence areas, and 2 startups. And I'm now in my 3rd startup, which started 2 weeks ago, and that's an advisory business.
Great. So I see behind you a new logo I haven't seen with you before, Appold. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So Appold's the new business that I launched that is an advisory and investment business to the emerging technology sector. The emerging technology sector, what is that? That is technologies that go through these hype cycles. Many listeners will understand what those are, but they are cycles of technology that people get very excited about, but don't necessarily go to mainstream for some time. And this is what I define as emerging technology that is reaching out towards mainstream, but is not there. And you can think of things, the actual technologies are things like blockchain, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, very advanced medical science, biotechnology, other areas of technology, even going down to clean technology. We're seeing some amazing technology come through for clean initiatives and food technology. And we started the business a couple of weeks ago. We have 5 high quality clients already that we're working very hard for. And the idea is to take these emerging technologies in these companies and take them to mainstream. And that's really the focus of the business.
One of the things you're letting me know that you do now is flying pretty far above my head at least. So artificial intelligence, you hear about it all the time. Blockchain, new currencies. Is there a possibility to explain it to me like I'm 5 to 10 years old what blockchain is and what artificial intelligence will mean for future business?
Sure. Well, I don't think it'll worry a 5-year-old what will happen in future business necessarily, but I understand that that I'm not going to get technical or use technical terms. That's something that a lot of our companies that we deal with and the founders in those companies that come from academic backgrounds are challenged with, is actually trying to communicate to investors or to their customers the technologies, and that's something that we help with. So I'll try my best. So blockchain is a technology that allows for a 5-year-old. What's important for a 5-year-old? Maybe one of their toys. Let's think about that. So their toys are important. And imagine if for some reason you lost that toy. That would be pretty bad. You wouldn't be able to find it again. But imagine if that toy was copied and duplicated in many different locations around the house, or even maybe at your next door neighbour's house, or maybe at your grandmother's house. That toy was replicated. If you lost it, you could find another one and it'd be the same. It would be exactly the same. Blockchain is something similar to that in that it keeps a distributed set of toys, or even in this case in business, it would be a set of transactions, and it copies them and keeps them in sync, synchronized, so that they're exactly the same across many different computers. And this is where the computing technology comes in, which allows for some nice features. One is that it can never be deleted, so your toy could never be thrown away. Your transactions could never be thrown away. This is very important for anti-fraud measures, an improvement of the way we handle our data in the world, and also there's other advantages of just speed of transactions, speed of movement of data. And that can also mean money. And this is where the currencies come in. And that's why there's this term cryptocurrency. And for the 5-year-old, that might be that they're using at the moment some coins and some notes to maybe buy things from the local shops with their parents and so on, and their grandparents, and they maybe get some bit of money for birthdays and things like that. And that's in a local currency. Well, as things are evolving, and in some countries, and where you are, Richard, in Sweden, that country is very advanced in digitizing money, but some countries aren't so advanced in that. And what you'll see with these cryptocurrencies is that they will come in, and digital currencies will come in to digitize all of our types of currency, and you won't necessarily need to handle these notes and coins anymore. That'll be something of the past, as we move into this world of everyone having a device like a mobile phone that can be used as a means of payment, a method of payment. And then finally, artificial intelligence is a whole area that's been around for a long time, much longer than the blockchain technology. Even going back to when I was at school, a long time ago, I remember lots of exciting things about robotics and artificial intelligence coming that was going to change our world, and we were going to have robots in the home that would help us in our daily lives. That hasn't really come in as quickly as many people thought, and there are some huge challenges with artificial intelligence. But it's starting with the advent of these very, very fast computers, very, very fast calculation computers that are able to calculate, understand information, understand data again, data being a very important thing in the world right now, understand it. It can then start to learn from it. And you have these what are called learning computers. And these learning computers can use different terminology. There's machine learning, deep learning, other types of technologies that artificial intelligence, this band of techniques that people are going to use to create things that can learn, give insights to business. So this is where it's important to business, and they can create efficiency in business. They can if you're say trading, you're trading and you use artificial intelligence to learn how the trade works, that could be automated. So there's some automation that can happen. You're in the cosmetics world, Richard. You're in the maybe the hair world and things like that. Imagine if you could take a picture of someone and then with the artificial intelligence, it learns from your picture and your complexion the perfect type of makeup, the perfect hairstyle, and can show you immediately what that's going to look like before you buy. So that's something that would be speed up the sales process and take that process potentially online, which is something we're seeing with the lockdown that we're in at the moment with the COVID-19 world crisis, is something that we're seeing digital technologies running at a faster pace into mainstream. Those are some of the applications, and AI can be used in so many different ways to help and accelerate in the sales process.
What other things do you see that as doing to I think we probably do see that AI and the digital revolution is transforming the business landscape. So what do you see being the most significant changes there?
There's a number of what's the world impact wise. There's going to be a shift in the way that people work. There's no doubt about it. Major impact. I mean, I think rather than going to the specifics of AI and what it might do to, say, one business sector or something like that, I think that's not for this podcast. What I am seeing, and I did write for a newspaper recently, was about the accelerating use of emerging technology. And what we're seeing is the way that the world is changing, and the way the world has moved already from the high street to the online, the way the world has already moved to, moving to, that physical medical connection to telemedicine and virtual connections to medicine and services. That's already happening. And I would say digital cash, that's happening. It's already happened in Sweden. It will happen around the world. We'll move towards these electronic things much faster. And so that's the big change, is you're going to see on a world level, everyone shifting towards use of technology much more and much faster than we have seen at this growth of technology now.
Do you think there's going to be any kind of resistance to that from people who maybe aren't willing to embrace technology, or perhaps aren't in a position to be able to take on technology?
There's always resistance, but the thing is, those resistance becomes smaller and smaller when they see the benefits. The example on the medical side is a nice one, because anecdotally, my wife, she's registered with a local GP, which is a doctor here in the UK, and to get medicine, you would have to go book an appointment, go and see the doctor, consultation, and you would get you then get a piece of paper that would allow you to go to a pharmacy to go and pick up your drugs. That process has been changed into an electronic process, and my wife came back one day and said, "This is amazing. It's all on my mobile phone, and I've got my prescription. I can walk straight to the pharmacy. I can pick my drugs up. I haven't had to see the doctor because the consultation has been done online. This is amazing. I don't have to wait weeks and things to see the doctors." So already people are starting to see there's a benefit to this, and streamlining some of the services that you consume. So, of course, there's going to be some resistance. Of course, there's going to be, well, that's terrible. You should be going to see your doctor every time. But we should go back to manual processes. But generally, the populations shift to things that are easier, cheaper, easier, faster. Generally, people pick up those, and they become the mainstream technology, the mainstream process.
I have concerns with things like becoming cashless. There's already a high incidence of homelessness in many countries that's increasing, and those are people who are not going to be able to take advantage of technology, if you like, and people who are maybe asking for money on the streets. In a cashless society, that's not going to work. I do have concerns that an already vulnerable group is going to be made even more vulnerable, and there may be some other instances along that side as well. And I'm not asking you to have the answers to that. I'm just sort of saying that is something that comes up as a concern that I've heard from a few different places before as we progress. Whilst it's all convenient and great for everyone else, there are problems that it could lead to as well for some very significant groups.
Well, maybe you can answer that, Rob, but I do have some knowledge about that myself. And that's I've had a friend in Sweden that actually started a cash card for people who cannot have a bank account. So it's basically like a gift card that you buy in a store, and you can pay with it in Visa and MasterCard, and people can give to them over something in Sweden called Swish. So coming back to the digitalization in my home country, where today 92% of all money transactions is digital. Cash is not even existing anymore. Uh, People who are on the street actually do have a cell phone or a cash card, and you can swish them, which is basically you give them 100 of some currency to their telephone number, and then they have the money. So actually the people who are homeless are digitalizing in Sweden as well. So it's an interesting development. And there are really cheap ways from entrepreneurs to help, especially immigrants who doesn't have a social security number yet or can have a bank account. They can still have a cash card. So life will find a way. What do you say about that, Rob?
100%. That was going to be similar to my answer, but I was going to base it on some of the knowledge I'm getting from Africa, where you have people that you would imagine would never be able to own a mobile phone, but the way that mobile phone technology has pushed into all of parts of Africa, where you have people that you would just assume couldn't afford the phone or even the contract, from a Western point of view, they've got that technology. They're using that technology to improve their lives. And I think there's always a way. And you say there's always a way that these cash cards or these cards can be very sophisticated. So you could even maybe walk up to a card, if it's a card you're giving, and top it up. So if you wanted to give someone some money to go and buy a hot drink or some soup or something like that, if they need that, that could be something you could do electronically. There's all kinds of methods to get around this, and charities are aware of these technologies, and they're working with these technologies. So there will be a way. And there's also this other thing where another bit of discussions I've had. I'm involved in the Lithuanian blockchain center there. I'm a board advisor to the Lithuania's blockchain center in Vilnius. And we've talked with the government about technologies moving across Lithuania. And the resistance there is, well, what about people that don't even have computers? We have some elderly people in our society that don't even have a computer, which you when you're working in technology, you just assume everyone's got a computer. And of course, they came out with they were talking about their e-voting strategy, so moving towards a digital voting strategy rather than just having and also digital government services as well. And they were like, well, what do we do when we don't have everybody having this access to a mobile or a computer? Because obviously they will feel excluded from society if everything goes digital. And what the government was talking then was maybe creating connected to local mayor offices or libraries or other services where people could go to get those services, and they would have a digital login, and then they get around the system. So at least they would have the ability to carry on as citizens, but move away from all the paper and all the other manual issues that the government was handling. And there was a big pressure to do this from the younger society. The good thing about Lithuania as an interesting country is that the politicians are very young. Some of them are in their 20s, and they've really embracing technology and trying to push the old guard out and the new technologies and the new pushing on with new ideas that the population is quite excited about.
Yeah, it's nice to know that there are people who really are caring about this stuff, and I do think that certainly, and I don't include myself in the younger generation anymore, but for those who are younger in their 20s, it's very much in many parts an activist generation, which I think is in some ways exciting, some ways challenging as well, of course, but I think it's generally a big positive that people seem to care more and more about the world, about the environment, about vulnerable people, about each other at the moment, about Black Lives Matter and things like that. It's great that there is so much activism happening, that people actually are caring about these things, where I think that has come out of previously a very high level of general apathy. So for me, it's a very positive shift. It's really interesting to, I mean, I am fascinated by the area of AI. I don't know much about blockchain, but I have some understanding or some knowledge about algorithms and how really the world is going to be run on algorithms, if not already, really. And certainly with social media sites, much marketing, things like that, is all reliant on that. And that we don't probably would be scared if we actually understood how vulnerable we are to being understood by our algorithms and how good they are at predicting our behaviors.
Absolutely, it is quite a scary area, and on various AI groups that I belong to, we discuss ethics a lot. I mean, ethics in this area is an important thing to understand and an important thing to put into the computer science of artificial intelligence. But we've talked a lot about bias. The AI is being used to help with the recruitment process in some corporations, and there's a bias towards certain groups of individuals getting jobs. That was well documented by some large tech companies. I won't name them, but you can imagine who they are, and they've switched off some of those systems because.
So, did you say that the algorithms has developed a bias?
No, well, it kind of, but it all comes from code at the end of the day. So that's
Yes, of course,
human-derived
it's
code.
man-made in the beginning.
So it's man-made in the beginning, but and they're not trying to do a bias. It's just that it starts to learn a bias, because there is actually a bias in society, and this is what you're.
But this is super interesting. Could we penetrate a little bit into bias? Because, I mean, from my point of view, you have to really work with your experiences, because your experiences can be really valuable for looking at the future. If you know the history, that's what I always say, you can in a way predict the future, but also your experience from past is full of things that is not applicable for the future. And I mean, you really have to work with yourself and how you look at things to not become biased, because everyone is biased. That's in a way built in our nature. How does that correspond into artificial intelligence that is from the beginning man-made? Can it be taken away and be more neutral?
Exactly. I mean, what we've discussed in some of the AI panels is actually having an ethics AI solution that sits along all side and is monitoring effectively the for and checking for any biases and then recommending that the coders change the code, effectively try and neutralize it. This is some way to go about it, but there's other solutions that people are talking around. But
because I remember when I was in sci-fi when I was younger, I read Asimov, and that was the first time I got into the rules of robotics. I mean, the basic 4 or 5 rules of robotics. Is there anything like this developing for artificial intelligence as well? Not to hurt people, and I mean, those rules. I don't exactly remember them, but.
In some groups, no, and this is the danger, and this is why industry has to come together and really think about coming out with solutions that are better for human, not necessarily worse.
Because the area of artificial intelligence is not at all regulated, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, you can't regulate code, really. Anybody can create code. I mean, I think that the darkest there's 2 dark areas that concern me, is the way that AI is used by companies in the social media space, and also governments. And I will mention the country, and I'm not anti any country, but China especially has taken a lot of movement towards digitization. They are the first country to launch the digital yuan, currency in 4 cities. They're the first country to use facial recognition payment systems and facial recognition for things like social scoring. And if you took social scoring and the facial recognition technology into Europe now, I think you'd have a backlash and everyone would be very, very scared. Very scared. but they've pushed on and they're using a lot of artificial intelligence. And if there are biases built into the system, and there are some biases for religious groups that have already been discovered by some of the people that analyse, the experienced technical people of the world that analyse what's going on in certain areas of technology. And they've started to see biases against certain religious groups. This can be built up. And imagine if it's a social scoring system that allows you to take certain services, and if you're from a specific religious group, you would be biased, not allowed to take those services. You wouldn't be able to take a train. You would not be able to book a hotel. You wouldn't be able to go and eat and drink in a cafe. Imagine if that was taken away from you just because of your religious belief.
Scary.
And they can hide it by a social scoring system. So they can say you're a low score because you did some bad things, but you won't know why you've done those bad things.
And if those kinds of things are introduced slowly enough, there may not be so much resistance. We might find ourselves in that situation. I think it is a very real concern, and the ethics around all of this is fascinating, and maybe hasn't had enough attention paid to it. I mean, these are all things that ultimately are affecting democracy, are affecting elections in countries, and we've seen this. I don't know if you saw that documentary, The Great Hack, on Netflix, and it's just really interesting that
Honestly,
we are
that's
so
nothing.
much more open to manipulation than we realise.
That the Great Hack is 1% of what's really going on. I promise you, it scares you from the outset, but if you really know what's going on in the way that the technology can be used to manipulate voting, it's nothing compared to what they're doing.
Why do you think that isn't being talked about as much as maybe it should be? If that's just scratching the surface, who's actually having these discussions about what really is going on, and why do you think it's not so much in the public domain?
Who controls the media? Why is it not in the public domain? The media aren't going to report on this. They're owned by the same people that control who goes into government. They support an individual into government. The government gets into power thanks to that media person, and they use technologies that they're not going to report on.
I want to ask you, I'm aware from just my general reading and from what I see going on in the world that AI is something that is going to be replacing a lot of people's jobs, and so that's one of the reasons why I asked about why you see some of the transformation. Where do you think work is going to head for people as this becomes more the normality, the AI revolution really takes hold, and probably business as we recognize it today is transformed? Where do you think there's going to be new jobs, new work coming in for people, or do you think that is going to be something that mostly does start to disappear?
Throughout history, if you look at any technology that's come in, then people learn new skills and they get work somehow, and of course there will be a change in the workforce for any skill, any current function that is replaced or disrupted by a technology. And you can go back through thousands of years and see some element of something that comes along that disrupts someone doing something, and they end up doing something else. They don't all just lay about and do nothing. There's always something that happens in history and I think history will carry on repeating. Will carry on repeating itself, and like that. There's doomsayers. There's always going to be doomsayers that say a technology is going to come in and change the world, and then that's it. Game over. Nobody's working anymore. But they were saying that when they were breaking the spinning wheels in in England, in the time of the cotton wool production and so on, and they were saying it in the times of there was always the good anecdote around the whip manufacturer, coming out with the best whip manufacturer and for horse riding and horses and carriages and so on. And then, of course, the motor car came in and totally disrupted that industry. Well, of course, people just changed their jobs. They moved along with the technology. They moved along or moved into something that supported that. And in AI, I think it is naive to say that we all should just sit back and kind of wait for it, and when it comes, we should think about doing something. I'm actually very vocal and very pushing that everyone should think about their technical skills and understanding of this, because to be able to find work in this future, you need to have some of those technical skills.
But this is super fascinating, and I think we could go on for hours. And I will call you later outside of the podcast, Rob. It's great, but I'm also a little bit curious about you. How did you end up in this world of artificial intelligence? You told us a little bit about your working background, but you as a person, how have you developed from school to this, to come into this very, it's a high level technical position, or do you come in from the managing investor side?
Oh, the managing investor side. I'm not an experienced coder. I learned coding when I was at school and university, but not to any high level, and I didn't really enjoy coding that much. I can read elements of code, and I like code, and I like really high quality code. I enjoy that sort of thing, but that's just like reading a language, isn't it? It's the same as reading another language. But I'm not an experienced coder. This is something that I like the business application of. I like to explain it to people, and that's why Appold is there, my business, to really help take these technologies into businesses, as well as investors come in and see opportunities, because if you invest in a technology that's going to be the future and is going mainstream, then obviously you as an investor can get a nice return off the fact that you're going along the journey, and you're not investing in old technologies that you think that can just keep repeating themselves. That never happens in history. Old technologies and old processes never repeat themselves. We always move on. Well, the difference now is it's moving at a faster pace, so people feel out of control, and hopefully they can come to me and say, Rob, help me with my business, or help me, how do I get these technologies? Or
yes, Rob, help me. I'm 58 years old. I'm so happy that I might even disappear before all this is happening. Rob, tell us a little bit about your GBO story, where you come in, you became a member, vice president. What's happening in London, and how have you benefited in your business from the GBO membership?
Well, I would say, yeah, it's been a really interesting and nice journey. I was introduced to GBO in July of 2019. I became a member in August. I attended the first meeting of one of the London chapter, and it was a lovely lunch we had, and I met the president, the ambassador, and other people that were there, that GBO supporters, as well as some members that have been there for a long time as members, as well as some new members that only been there for a month or two. And the thing that struck me, because I am very much in, the name Appold for my business is a street that's right in the centre between the tech capital of Shoreditch and the finance capital of the city. I'm based there, and I'm right in the front of technology and finance. I'm doing that every day. And then when you step out of that and you go to something like the GBO group, you're then with people from all different backgrounds, industries, all business owners, but all having similar problems, similar issues. And it's fascinating, and it was a real refreshing for me. That was a super exciting, and I joined straight away. Because I wanted to carry on going to that and meeting people. And also I was introduced to people like you, Richard, and other people that are from on a more global scale. And of course that is fascinating for me. I love people from all around the world. I love meeting people from all around the world. I love all the different cultures and businesses that are going on around the world. And GBO gave me the opportunity. And also I like the fact that it's a small group that's growing. I didn't want to join a large organisation that wasn't personal. GBO right now is very personal, and I have now made good friends in GBO, and I want to make more friends in GBO.
No, I had the same experience when I started a little bit earlier than you. That I had my network and all the people I knew, but they were all in my business. And when I left as a CEO, I wanted to widen my horizon. And when I was invited to the first GBO lunch, I realized that this is a great opportunity to build new networks and meet people from all other areas. And I mean, it took me to this situation, and it's been the story of a lot of GBO members. What about you, John? What's your GBO story?
I was invited to GBO through LinkedIn back when Peter Redrin was still running the show, and in my coaching work, I do a lot of professional coaching. I always talk to my clients about the power of networking, and that if you really want to make things happen, you need to expand your network, and often in the right kind of people. I work with some clients who are particularly looking at specific areas of investment and creating passive or residual income streams. And one of the things I'll always say to them in order to do that is get into the right kinds of networks where you're going to connect with people who can help you do that and who know what they're talking about. Because, I work in the personal and professional development industry, and there are, I hate to say it, but there are a lot of scammy people out there who are selling investment advice and development work and at very high prices, but not actually delivering anything of any great value. But this is why I say people really need to get a good network where you're going to get connected or put onto the people who will give you good information, who will advise you of what coming up and connect you with opportunities, or they'll know someone who is the right person to connect you with. And GBO, for me, my very first GBO lunch that I went to, it was kind of a busy lunch, but everybody there was fascinating for different reasons. And I was blown away by the difference that it made for me, and the fact that it felt very different to other networking things that I'd done. And it wasn't just take my business card, it was making friends with people, making real connections. And that has been my experience with GBO ever since. It's one of the reasons why I stay, one of the reasons why I'm delighted to be the president here in Valencia, because it is business friends. And at home, my husband doesn't want to talk about my business, doesn't want to hear about it, so I can talk about it with my business friends in GBO. And so for me, it's incredible value. And while the additional benefits that come with it are cream in the coffee, really, it has huge value even without that.
Great, John. Thank you very much. Rob, on a personal level, we talked a lot about your background, what you do and things, but what do you do for
fun? Well, before I started this,
you color up Excel sheets or something.
No, I mean, of course. I mean, some of my passions, sort of that I've done in the past, but I'd like to get back to when we're sort of out of lockdown, is I have a real passion for sailing and technology around sailing, flying. Used to be a pilot, and I love that, and I love following technology around that, and the electrification of flight is something I'm very passionate about. Then I also like golf. I used to play a lot of golf, and I'm really planning to get back into that when the lockdown is over. So yeah, I like a lot of things, and I like generally sports that I play. I don't watch a lot of sport, and I don't. I like watching a bit of rugby, things like that, but I'm not an avid sports fan. But I do, and I love following technology. I'm a geek.
Okay. But I guess that's a benefit in your line of work. If you would recommend someone or a book or a podcast or anyone who has inspired you, an author or someone that we could recommend to our podcast listeners, who would that be?
I would like to have had a bit of thought on that one. There's so many people that I like, and so many people that I follow. I think anything in the technology space is something that I wouldn't like to say a certain name or anything like that. I think it's.
Let me ask you a straight question then. Is it Bill Gates or Steve Jobs?
That's a tough one. Both of them have done quite amazing things.
Absolutely.
Bill Gates has an incredible foundation that is trying to do better for the world. So I think I'd say I see Bill Gates for what he's doing now, not necessarily for Microsoft, Microsoft was incredible, and what it's done, taking technology to mainstream, and anything that does that I love. But what Steve Jobs did was incredible in certainly in the mobile world and in the computing world, and making things so much easier and nicer and beautiful to look at, and that is something I like about what Steve did. But in terms of manager-wise and people-wise, Bill Gates is a extremely smart man who has, with his wife, has done incredible things with the money that he's accumulated. I know people that worked with Steve Jobs, and he's not the easiest person to deal with.
Well, entrepreneurs. I've been there. I'm there. I'm there now as well. But I've always found I worked in the cosmetic business, and especially in the hair care area. And of course, I worked then with a lot of hairdressers. I mean, hairdressers are not considered to be high-level skilled people in the academic world, but I've found a lot of really interesting people with amazing people knowledge and amazing networks. Because some of the high-end hairdressers I met over the world, they have had billionaires, entrepreneurs, politicians, celebrities, everyone in their chair. And if they're smart enough, they've had conversation with these people about where they are and who they are. So some of them were intellectually on an absolutely high level, but in combination with their creativity, there's a lot of emotions as well. But that combination is a fascinating thing with this line of people. And I've worked with quite a few entrepreneurs in this area, and they were more Steve Jobbish than Bill Gatesish in a way. So, and I'm more of a structured, fact-based person. So that's where I come from. Do you use an Android or an iPhone?
I use an iPhone.
Okay, so you have. Do you think everyone understands that Siri is artificial intelligence?
Does everybody understand it? I don't think people know. I mean, this is another thing that I see with technology. Blockchain, which I was trying to explain as a 5-year-old, is very difficult to do. Nobody is going to really know about blockchain. Blockchain is just going to be the back-end technology to a lot of things that you don't know about. Siri is another thing. Siri is just a front end with a ton of stuff behind it that uses techniques for you to interact more easily with technology. That's all it's doing, and it's not sophisticated AI. Alexa, which shouldn't say that, she'll jump on my screen. The Amazon's version of this is using elements of artificial intelligence, but it's not very sophisticated really. There are some more sophisticated systems out there.
Mm-hmm. But from my point of view, I'm an Apple fan. I everything I have is that. I've had PC when I was working in other areas as well for 10-15 years, but I always returned to Apple because of the user interface and the ease and the way it's very human. But one area where I think Apple is failing is with their artificial intelligence in Siri, where other technologies, like as for example Alexa, is better. And I think I've read and heard that this is about personal integrity, and that Apple is more strict on that than others. Do you have a comment on that?
Personal integrity, I don't think that's related. Again, it's all about getting products to market, and Amazon was very smart in buying it's actually a UK-based company that built it, and they took a jump on the technology. I'm sure if Apple could have got a hold of that, they would have done, or Google with its own competing project wanted to have that sort of technology. Now, actually, going back to someone that I do follow and I do like, and I'm amazed with what he's doing, is Elon Musk. Is someone that I do follow, but he's not a prolific writer, so I can't sort of point to any books. But he is an amazing businessman and scientist and technical person, and the ability for him to run these organizations and think about the future and how that's going to work in the future. He is someone that could be even bigger than the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs of the world. And you don't know this yet, because a lot of people think he just runs a an electric car company and he runs a rocket company. Well, there's way more stuff coming down the line, way more stuff. He is going to be someone that controls a lot of and has business interest in a lot of the things that we do day to day, way outside rockets and electric cars.
It's interesting you mention him, because for me he's the Jules Verne with money. I mean, he has an imagination of what can happen in the future that is limitless, and now he has a lot of money with it as well. So that's a great advice from you to keep an eye on what Elon Musk is doing. Thank you very much for being with us, Rob. Just for our podcast listeners, if you have any comments or suggestions, or you want to communicate with us, please send an email to podcast@globalbusinessowners.com. And depending on what platform you are listening or seeing this on, please subscribe, give us reviews, and let us know what you think. Rob, it's been fascinating. Thank you for having us with you. And I hope you have great success with Appold moving forward. And we look forward to when we can meet physically again after this COVID situation next time. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, thank you.
Are you a game changer? A startup founder? A high-impact investor? Entrepreneurial-minded? A business owner with a global mindset?
Welcome to the world of global business owners. I'm Richard, Global President of GBO. We are a rapidly expanding international business networking club with established chapters in 24 cities and more than 650 members worldwide. Among our esteemed members are many accomplished business owners, which include partners of prodigious law firms, founders of high-tech startups, elite yacht brokers, and experienced investors, to name a few. We created GBO to help people like you facilitate lifelong business friendships, to give leaders a platform to share knowledge, to allow for the open discussion of ideas, and to create business opportunities for GBO members around the world. Experience a different kind of business network, one that doesn't come with strict membership rules or expensive club fees. GBO offers a relaxed social environment that connects people with knowledge, knowledge with ideas, and ideas with opportunities.
We invite you to join us in building a significant global business network with the goal to forge a community of 50,000 global members in 500 city chapters all around the world, as GBO becomes a key community in the global business environment.
Begin your journey today and join us as an honored guest at one of the next local chapter meetings in your city to experience the spirit and philosophy of GBO.
Simply complete the guest request form on our website, and one of our dedicated guest managers will be in contact with you to assist you in booking a guest seat and to answer any questions. I hope to see you at the next GBO event.
Welcome to GBO.
Welkom bij GBO.
Bienvenido a GBO.
Sveiki atvykę į GBO.
Velkommen til GBO.
Velkommen by GBO.
Velkommen til GBO.